Go. Hello everyone and welcome to Theola Gaming. And here with me today is Jacob
G'day.
and Joel.
How's it going?
I was trying to mix up order there and I did it alphabetical again. I just don't think I can help myself. Yes. And today we're going to be doing a talk show episode, so just going to be discussing a couple of things. One of the big topics today will be the Black Lives Matter movement. And though none of us know a huge amount about that, so don't expect too much from that. But well, we'll give what we know or just make car noises. It's cool. Today I am playing Orion Legacy of the Coriodan, which is a very interesting game actually. It's by a Nigerian game development company, and you are the Prince of Nigeria, pretty much. Or you just you become the king of a kingdom, lose your kingdom, have to get it back, which is what we'll see in a minute. And basically it plays like a mix of Paper Mario and Super Smash Brothers is the best way I can think of to describe it, though with RPG elements and a whole lot of serious stuff to talk about. And it's on Steam, very much recommend it. So just give them their bit of publicity there. And now let's go into the topic. So Black Lives Matter movement. For those who don't know, this is a movement that started I think it was about 2 years ago actually that the movement started, but that's been gaining steam, especially this year and especially recently. And the whole thing is basically designed around the treatment of African Americans by the police in the United States, where they uh, seem to often get um, they get shot a lot more readily than white people, it seems. So it ties into a few themes such as police brutality, racism, and that sort of thing. And this movement is designed to try and draw attention to the fact of the discrimination in treatment by the police force. So the most recent thing I think is um, the most recent thing is a guy got pulled over, and I don't fully know. I didn't actually see this one myself, but a guy got pulled over for some sort of traffic violation and was for the most part compliant, but then did something non-compliant or something and ended up getting shot while being innocent. And his girlfriend, I think, was streaming the whole thing. And so
Oh,
seeing all
so
that.
so with that one, he was never not compliant. Um, what happened was he mentioned to the officer that had pulled him over, I have a gun and I have a license for the gun. Went to get his ID for the officer, and the officer was like, "Oh, he's going for a gun. I'm gonna shoot the guy," and shot the guy.
Alright, so yeah, that's what happened. And pretty sad. This whole situation, really.
Hmm.
It's also um, I don't know, it's a sort of issue that I find hard to find a middle ground to, because um, obviously that sort of thing happening is quite wrong. A guy getting shot for a mistake at the worst on his part, or just for complete overreaction on the other hand. But at the same time, we've got I mean, this is America. Anyone you pull over could have like an assault rifle that can take down you and your partners and half the crowd around you if they wanted within seconds. It's very easy to get trigger happy when there's such real danger. And on both sides, I suppose. So it's probably a bit of a complementary problem there. But it's pretty hard to find one way where, um, well, sort of acknowledging the danger to the police and that they have a certain pressure to action and to act fast and almost reflexively, but also to temper that action so that you don't make mistakes and shoot innocents at the same time. And as usual, you try and do that, and both sides just hate you for not taking their side unequivocally. So do you guys have any thoughts on the matter?
Well, it is a very polarized issue. I was watching a bit of that. I don't know if you guys saw it, the clip of Trevor Noah, the talk show host. He was talking about how the prevailing attitude, something along the lines of, you know, if you're on one side, you can't see any reasonableness in the other side. You can't be both pro-cop and pro-black. You have to be pro-cop and anti-black, or pro-black and anti-cop. And there's a place, I think his argument was, for recognizing the pressures that law enforcement are under, but also at the same time for recognizing the, systematic disadvantages that black people face, and particularly this police brutality being one of them. The idea that you can acknowledge the difficulty on both sides of the situation, have a measured view of it, doesn't seem to sit well with just about anybody.
One thing I've been looking at mostly is statistics and numbers. I mean, obviously, that doesn't tell the personal story of it, and I don't claim to have any personal understanding or expertise in any way. I'm just trying to learn and what's like the situation, and doing that, I've been reading lots of statistics, and trying to find most reputable sources in that. Now, statistics, there's a lot of different things you can compare. There's really you can compare, and I'm sure you quick Google search for any of our listeners can easily attest to that. You start doing it by numbers or by population, in using the words that they use in any way, black on black violence compared to white on black or black on white violence, and so on, regarding police or otherwise. Some of them, many of them show that there's actually much more per capita and even absolute violence between from black to white sometimes in what statistics you use, particularly regarding police. And what it seems like, that while there definitely probably is a huge problem, and maybe some racism within the police force, not going to deny that, because we're dealing with literally millions of people, okay, the US population is about 300 million, or thereabouts, there's a lot of people with a lot of personal stories which can make the media and make the news. And unlike 50 years ago, any shooting has potential to reach national and international headlines, or fade into obscurity if it's not, I guess you call controversial enough. Because there's plenty of, if you do some more Google searches, you'll realize a lot of, white teens even being shot, police through various circumstances who don't the headlines. And yeah, that can skew a lot of views. It's quite a complicated issue, not just because of the feelings involved, but also what data is being presented to people, or I guess being focused on. Have you guys had a chance to see many statistics at all, or look at some of the bigger picture stuff?
Yeah, I've seen a bit of that. Yeah.
Yeah, I've looked at it a little bit. Not much. Not so much actual numbers, but like what they were. Because often I'm sort of skeptical, I suppose, of this because, as you mentioned, it's sort of the
Doesn't tell the full
presentation
story.
isn't equal and it doesn't really tell the full story. But I think it was on Relevant actually. It showed a bunch of um, the stats on what things actually signify the endemic racism in the US, and it wasn't the usual. It wasn't the stuff that people often point to, like, oh, they commit more crime or they make less. It's sort of, which is like, there could be a lot of factors for that, but it was stuff like when you compare, like when you're in court, you got a white person and a black person. They've done the same crime. The black person will get sentences the longer than by several months, often by the jury. Um, Employment, the black person is much less likely to get a job, and I can't remember the third one, but stuff like this where there is like there you can actually compare these equal situations and see that the white person has a much better chance of getting this stuff over the black person due to um, maybe not even just inbound like in racism per se, but just that instinct in people to like people who are like them and not like those who aren't like them. It's a bit. Um, I don't want to outright say, yeah, we're all racist because there is that. I guess it's in some way they're not that different. But anyway, point being, although it might not be actually hostile to these people or think them subhuman or something like that, the numbers do show that there is definitely a different treatment given to white and black people in the same situations.
Hmm.
And on the flip side, there's also, and it's kind of what charges the debate as well, so there's also a great and well, quite nice difference in crimes committed and also crimes involving violence committed between the races. Well, not races, I guess. I'll say people groups. I mean, we don't really use like the terms black and white in that context in Australia as much, but yeah, like that's what they use in America. We don't really have that. Oh, sorry, they have like there's a lot of statistics to show that. And also outside the police force, black on black violence is per capita is one of the four combinations of it, is the largest percentage. So that's another thing as well to take consideration. Again, not that's just these are just statistics of reading, having a look at that. Something I just linked the article to these guys. It's a recent one. And there's many. So my say article is actually like a paper. Okay, National Bureau of Economic Research. Okay, working paper. So on 22399 Massachusetts Avenue, Cambridge. Just on Google, found it. But it's a paper, so hope it's been peer reviewed. And it's well, sorry, it hasn't been peer reviewed yet. Okay, so there's that disclaimer. Um, just down page 36, this is in the conclusions. It's a little interesting few sentences. I'm not going to read any of the numbers or any of that stuff. Um, and this is from the paper. This isn't my words. This is from the paper. I thought it was interesting perspective from this academic document. Here we go. The importance of a result for racial inequality in America is unclear. It is plausible that racial differences in lower-level uses of force are simply a distraction, and movements such as Black Lives Matter should seek solutions within their own communities rather than changing the behaviors of police and other external forces. Much more troubling, due to their frequency and potential impact on minority belief formation, is the possibility that racial differences in police use of non-lethal force have spillovers on myriad dimensions of racial inequality. If, for instance, blacks use their lives experience with police as evidence that the world is discriminatory, then it's easy to understand why black youth invest less in human capital or black adults are more likely to believe discrimination is an important determinant of economic outcomes. Black dignity matters. Anyway, that was just an interesting thing at the end of the conclusions. Now, obviously, there's a lot more discussion in this and a lot more data in that. And just for reference, there you go. The title was an empirical analysis of racial differences in police use of force. So, yeah, what do you guys think of that article? Just to put that out there. Let's take that statement.
Well, I'm not able to read it at the moment.
Have the text out to you.
Yeah, no, but I just it's popping up behind my game, basically, so I can't pull it up because this game does not really like being recorded. But yeah, I don't know, because there's a lot
The
of factors. Go on, Joel. I'll think more.
the point that is raised in opposition to this particular study is the one that I tend to raise in response to a lot of the criticism of the Black Lives Matter movement, which is that people who are critical of it seem to reduce this whole Black Lives Matter thing to just okay, black people getting shot by cops and we need to stop that. Well, hang on a second, that's not the whole picture. Well, hang on a second.
Exactly, and it snowballs both sides indefinitely.
No, but that the thing is that the criticism misrepresents the initial position, because the concern is not just that black people are being shot by police. That is an outside obvious symptom of a social structural inequality that runs way deeper and into less obvious areas than these police shootings. Police shootings provide something for the community to rally around, but they're the tip of an iceberg, really. So there's a lot more going on than just people are being shot by the cops.
Fair enough. Actually, yeah. I think it's a really good point raised about the students being like a kind of like a rally point, or at least one of the most utmost public and outrageous, um, I guess we call it outbursts of racism to the end of a person's life.
Like in the same way that Rodney King, for instance, was a rallying point back in the 90s. You know, people weren't going out and protesting that just because this guy had been beaten by the cops. But that was the straw that broke the camel's back, so to speak. It's not the real issue as much as it is a real issue. The real issue is the social, economic, structural inequalities that black people face on a day-to-day basis in the US and, hey, in
Right.
our society as well.
So there's a difference between the symptom and the cause, root cause.
Yeah.
And then like root cause is a very large, complicated. Like I think the iceberg example you mentioned was that's a huge submerged thing, but only the pointy bit that sticks out, like some of these shootings and some of the more public, I guess, outpourings of it, the ones that get focused on. Yeah, that's then again that's something honestly I've never been to America, and so and obviously I'm just a white Aussie from of Italian descent, so it's I honestly just can't. I don't understand what they're going through exactly from a personal experience, and I'm not going to claim any sort of expertise in that way. Yeah, but it seems like that there is very real continuation of racism. Maybe not to the extent there was, 100 years ago, but or even 60 years ago, but still very much still present.
Hmm.
Yeah, like what I was going to say before is just as it's always a pretty complicated situation with several causes. Um, I mean, sometimes there it like what was I going to say? it's not always just racism either. You have various endemic social issues within these um, within people groups that are involved. In this case, African Americans, with some of the ghetto and gangster culture. But then you look at why some of those things exist, and part of that is this is a culture that was born under slavery. Like that, the roots of African American culture and sort of how that worked was formed as they lived when they lived in slave communities, because that's how they first got to America. And but on top of that, you have this sort of lingering racism, or for I mean, it wasn't that long ago that we had things like apartheid and so forth. Um, Even slavery, I think, wasn't that? Oh no, that was abolished Civil War era. That's outside 100 years ago. But this stuff was not a terribly long time ago, and you often have people alive who lived through that and grew up in that, which shapes your opinion. So there's an endemic distrust there, and on both sides, and both sides view the other as an outsider. So you get sort of um, communities within communities who don't trust outsiders, which is part of the issue for the problems and including some of the troubles in the community that can't get fixed because they have to be fixed from inside. And it just becomes this big net of situations that often it's not just there's one side to blame, there's a whole bunch of factors from both sides that feed together into this. And like in a lot of ways, I mean, we're doing a lot better given how strong that racism was recently, like 50 years ago and so forth. For there to be big movements like this with large support, for even um, just for the push and the movement, and especially the importance placed on equality by the younger generation and stuff like this, we are doing some big cultural changes rather fast, and we're not there yet, but we don't want to dismiss all the progress we've made, but also we don't want to get complacent and stop. All right, well, anyone have anything more to say on that?
I'm not really. Um, I think just in just in general, like what's in terms of the approach of the social media side. See, I'm not a huge social media person myself, but I do kind of try to follow a little bit what's going on. You see a lot of different angles being put forward as well. Like I guess you guys more informed this, but some go for very much like a meme sort of informal yet catchy or very out there sort of thing. Some go for posting, you know, peer-reviewed journal articles and everything else in between. Others go on big long rants, either in blogs or Facebook or whatever it might be. Um, I guess what do you think has been helpful? You know, I guess what modes or media or there's also talk shows and that. Like, what have been helpful, do you think, for the um, I guess people involved?
I think for me, the things that have been most striking have been videos. Like, I didn't see this latest one and don't know if I really want to watch a guy get shot over nothing. But previous ones showing like police brutality against just a teenage black girl and other ones like that, actually seeing this stuff happen and seeing the somewhat unreasonable approach or just rash approach taken really sort of highlights it a lot better for me than people just telling me that. Numbers are also good because they're not so much subject to rhetoric and just twisting them.
Hmm. I think the ones that I guess most interest me are the ones that appear to be written with a cool head. Um, Again, that might sound really cold and unemotional, and it is very much an emotional and real thing to talk about how people treat you. I don't want to, I guess, diminish that fact. It's just I find it easier to read and understand when you can tell when someone's written an article or looked at things in a very much methodical way. It could just be I'm an engineer. This is how I do things, but um, I don't know, I just feel like when the more thought out and less emotionally charged in as a sense of like thinking as they're writing, I find the more thought out and thinking through implications and things, and or even sharing personal experience. I think the ones that share personal experience that I find most helpful because I don't understand the personal experience because I haven't had them myself. So
Mm.
that when people write, oh, these are my experience and that very real stuff. I think that's I found most helpful because it bring up aspects of life that I haven't experienced at all, and I
Yeah,
would never have to have ever had to deal with, and they're dealing with it. And some from both sides. Some are from black and white police officers. Some are from black and white families of people who have been shot, and that's just on that one issue, but there's many others as well.
All right, so let's move on to some other stories from the week then. I think we got time. My clock has vanished.
Yeah, it's
Um,
about 9:30,
oh
9:24.
yeah, we'll go for another 15 minutes or so.
Cool.
So let's talk about um, the biggest news story of the past few weeks, Pokemon Go. So who here has actually got experience with that? I haven't played it, though I've seen my family play it.
I
Joel,
have a
you've played
flip
it?
phone.
yeah, I've played it a bit, just a little bit.
Alright, so just tell us a bit about that. How is it? What's it like? Is it fun? That sort of thing. Quick review
Yeah.
if you
So the
want.
idea with Pokemon Go um, is it's made by the guy who pretty much invented Google Earth, and so it's got this huge focus on um, maps and games kind of working together. So the idea is you walk around the real world, and as you explore the world, you'll encounter wild Pokemon in the game, appearing as creatures on a satellite map of where you are. Now, you can catch these Pokemon, and when you go to catch them, uh, you get taken into sort of an augmented reality kind of experience where you'll actually see the Pokemon overlaid over your phone camera sort of view. So whatever your phone camera is pointing at is what will be the background for your Pokemon encounter. You can catch these Pokemon, build up a collection of them, level up your trainer, challenge Pokemon gyms, join teams of Pokemon trainers. Um, yeah, it's been massive too, as in they're making over $1 million a day off of this game. It's ridiculous. It's just become a huge deal very quickly. And yeah, so if you're walking around in parks and public areas, you're pretty much guaranteed to see at least a few people walking around catching Pokemon just about anywhere. It's crazy. This is life now.
So how's it go? Like you mentioned, joining teams with other people for gyms and stuff. How much of a social aspect is there to it?
Well, basically, what we've got in this game is actual proper gangs. Like, you've got three teams: Team Valor, Team Mystic, and Team Instinct, which are red, blue, and yellow, respectively. And at level 5, which is when you can start challenging Pokemon gyms, you get to pick which one of these three teams that you want to join. And so gyms, sorry, I should explain that concept a bit. Real world locations, like artworks and buildings and that sort of thing, can be designated as locations in game, which can either be Pokestops, which are places you can visit to get Pokeballs and other items, or as gyms where you can actually go to battle other people's Pokemon. Now, if your team, whether it be the red, blue, or yellow team, currently controls a gym, then you can go to that gym and actually add your Pokemon to the gym, so that anyone who comes to challenge that gym has to fight your Pokemon to take it. And if a different team has the gym, you can challenge them, and if you beat all the Pokemon who are currently holding the gym, then you take control of it for your team.
Right. That's actually, it sounds pretty fun. Like the last 2 days I've walked over 20k due to work. So I think, well, I may not have captured many things, but apparently there's like an egg thing you can do with eggs if you
Yeah.
do lots of walking.
So you
Um,
find Pokemon eggs at Pokestops from time to time, and you hatch them by walking, um, much like eggs in the Pokemon games.
so how many eggs could you hatch from 20k walking in 2 days?
It depends on the egg. You've got three different kinds of egg: 2K eggs, 5K eggs, and 10K eggs. 2K eggs are pretty common and have rubbish Pokemon in them, but only take 2Ks of walking to hatch. 5K eggs are easier to hatch, have slightly better Pokemon, and 10K eggs are like super rare. Well, not super rare, but pretty rare. I haven't found any yet. But with the 10K eggs, you can get really good Pokemon out of them, pretty rare Pokemon, so they're good from that regard. And so if you're going on a 20K walk, just do the math. You could hatch 10 2K eggs, or 4 5K eggs, or 2 10K. Yeah.
Interesting. Actually, I think the reason it's really taken off is a heap of reasons, honestly. It's an actual go outside, be social sort of thing as well, which is so different than most games will be electronic apps and things. And
Yeah.
you see like so many stories of people are just going into, like, particularly in larger cities. Anyway, like going up, there's like 30 people all hunting Pokemon. It's like, let's all just be friends and just do stuff together now for no reason, even though we'd never met each other before. That's pretty
That's it,
cool.
man.
I think
Yeah.
that's pretty awesome.
But at the same time, like, for real gangs, like, that is the thing that is going on. As in, I was down at the Strand the other day, and there's people there, like, legit trash talking people who are in the other coloured teams and stuff, and there's actual organised groups of people locally,
Please tell me it's in
who
the car park at 11 p.m.
as legitimately though, it's happening exactly like that. People will
Yes.
meet in a car park at 11 p.m. and 5 people from Yellow Team will just drive around stealing gyms for a few hours when no one else is awake to like take them back and try and hold them for as long as possible. It's ridiculous. There's
Pokey
organized groups of
Tuesday.
people trying to capture the whole, like, every gym in Townsville for their team. It's crazy,
So what
absolutely
you're saying
insane.
is that there's more interest and fighting over who owns the gyms of Townsville than you and Jones' seat in Parliament.
Yeah, people definitely care more about team instinct than they do who actually wins the government.
So the most important question: which team do you support?
Oh, Team Mystic, all the way. I'm
There
blue
you go.
team till I die.
You heard it here first, folks. Oh, I've never actually even played the Pokemon games, but I'm aware of them. It sounds like a pretty fun. I mean, the only, one of the big disadvantages that you hear publicized is how many people do really stupid things for this game. Like, oh look, there's a highway with moving vehicles. Let's just walk out there.
Oh
Or
gosh,
I'm
isn't it
driving along a
stupid?
highway. Hey, there's a Pokestop. Like, I could stop on the highway to get it. Or oh, there's a creek there, or river. I can't swim, but at least there's a gym in the middle of the water. Like, guys, stop getting yourself killed for Pokemon. Just don't
Yep, pretty
do it.
much.
It ruins it for everyone else. Cause like planking. Planking was kind of funny
Yeah,
for 5 days until someone planked on top of a
yeah.
5-story building
I'd
and fell
forgotten
off.
planking. Far out.
And then owling, and then someone died owling. And then Fox News goes, extreme sport planking, banned. Like, it's not an extreme sport. It is not an extreme sport. Climbing is, like base jumping and all that stuff. Like we have to go, or free climbing. Free climbing is extreme sport. Lying flat when you get on top of something is not the extreme part.
Yeah.
Okay,
Oh
it's
dear.
the getting to the dumb place that you are. And same as like some of the Burn Go things. Just like obviously when you procedurally generate, literally millions of Pokestops worldwide and gyms and that, some are going to be in inconvenient places. And I've heard the disclaimer is actually pretty serious. As in, don't like private property. Just don't do it. Don't endanger yourself. Don't get. It's pretty simple. Like you would think it's common sense, but not when there's like a shiny Pikachu in the middle of like a volcano. It's like, nah, we got to catch them all, man.
Yeah,
Got to
that's
go
it,
in.
man.
Man, if that was a shiny,
Actually, the
then
interesting
definitely.
thing. Oh yeah, the interesting thing with this whole Pokemon Go thing, and it's not procedural generation. Um, so the company that makes Pokemon Go is
Is it Niantic?
called yeah. They had a game before Pokemon Go called Ingress, and the
Yes.
principle behind that was basically like there's all these portals, you got to get the portals, real world locations, users create them. There was millions of these user created data points basically. And so they just used that whole database from their previous game and imported all of that data into Pokemon Go to create the Pokestops and gyms.
What I've heard, and this is kind of my biggest I mean, I don't play it, but one of the biggest gripes of it is in rural areas. That's where you should see the rare Pokemon. Not around cities, because around cities is obviously where his Pokestops, because that's where people go a lot. But
Yeah, yeah.
wouldn't like I think it'd be awesome if we rewarded people going out, into like where there actually are animals.
Yeah, Safari Zone boys.
Yeah, I mean that'd be cool. It's like if yeah, okay, you know, you want to find a Charizard straight up, or some crazy awesome thing. Just go out, where there's
Although
actual lizards.
for real though, I have it on good authority that there is an absolute like truckload of Pokemon in Ingham. Like it is the
Really?
place to go to catch Pokemon.
Oh, my Facebook feed's been lighting up from that, yeah, that would make a lot of sense now. That
Yep.
makes so much sense now. Right. Have you gone up just for Pokemon? Like, when do people go up just for Pokemon?
As in, I know for a fact that there are people who have done that. Um,
You know, As someone who loves that town, I could actually see the business owners putting post-ups everywhere for that reason. And I don't blame them. That's great.
One other fun thing that's been happening out of this is churches are very often Pokestops or gyms or all manner of things, and so I've seen a lot of like articles and social media things about um, all these people going to church, probably not like actually going to church, but going to churches and seeing churches just because they're like a Pokemon gym now, which is a sort of amusing
Yeah.
side effect.
Well, both of our churches are designated Pokestops. And actually, on Sunday night, just gone, I was running lure modules on our Pokestop for the whole service in the hope that someone would wander in trying to catch Pokemon. But I didn't see anyone, so maybe people didn't come. Maybe they just stayed out in the car park. But yeah,
Oh dear.
And people thought Pokemon was evil and bad for churches.
I actually have quite a few non-Christian friends on Facebook. Some of whom are very upset about the fact that there are so many churches that are Pokemon gyms and Pokestops. Like, I don't want to go anywhere near a church. Like, come on, man. It's not a scary place. Just get your free Pokeballs and go away.
If this was an actual Pokemon game, you'd be going to like Shinto temples the whole time, so why not? Although they stripped that out of the English version, like a lot of the places you go, especially in the I know there's a lot in Generation 2, like Gold Silver. But yeah, a lot
Mm.
of those places you go are like temples or based on Japanese temples or like actual religious sites. The American translations always
Yep.
strip out any reference to religion, but yeah, that's a thing that's actually in Pokemon.
There you go.
Right, so pretty much at the end now. One other cool discovery that's, well, in the making at the moment is um, the Philistines, the people who we only know a little bit about, but we know a lot from the Bible as the enemies of Israel. Um, been looking for ages for especially human remains of them. We've known where their 5 cities are for quite a while, and through
Hmm.
discoveries there, we had suspected that um, they're from the Aegean, so they're from Crete or somewhere in Greece. But recently, we discovered, as in like this week, they discovered a cemetery um, with hundreds of these
Hey.
burials here, which is a big find. Now we can study the burial practices and the presumably genetics as well, and that can really help us shed some more light on that. So far, there's a fair bit of support for the um, them being Greek invaders, in that a lot of some of the burial practices match with Greek, and at the very least, they have very little to do with the burial practices of the peoples of like Middle Eastern peoples that were in the area.
Yep.
So yeah, we could be closer to knowing even more about the Philistines.
That's actually pretty cool.
All right, anyone else got anything cool that come on the news lately?
There was some weird um science stuff. I think then they make like a semi-official cyborg scenario using rat brain parts and other things. It was messed up. It was cool, but it was messed up.
I have not heard of that. Cool but
Yeah, I
messed
have to
up.
Google it.
Sounds like it
I
though.
don't know if it was real though, but still, yeah. Anyway,
That'd be a cool development though. Like brain-machine interface stuff coming a further step.
Mm.
Because there's a lot of good applications for that in like prosthetics and so forth. Alright. Well, that's it for this week, and tune in next time. See you all.
Yeah.
Catches.